Hi folks, it's Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and I have a video called Insights into the Beauty of Complex PTSD Suffering. If y'all are like me, and I know a lot of you are, focusing on the beauty of the kind of horrific suffering that we undergo is not something that I have spent a lot of time contemplating. Excuse me. I choked on those words. But I came across a wonderful quote from Dr. Elisabeth Kubler-Ross, the world-renowned expert on death and dying and loss and grieving, in her book, Death, the Final Stage of Growth. And this is a pretty famous quote. I'm sure a lot of you have heard this quote before, but here it is. The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat. They've known suffering. They've known struggle. They've known loss. And they have found their way out of these depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, fills them with gentleness, and fills them with a deep, loving concern. Beautiful people don't just happen. They're constructed, she says, through their own suffering, their own loss. So as I read this quote, there were just a lot of concepts that jumped out at me that I wanted to go into a little more depth with. So the first concept is, she calls them the most beautiful people. And I think that I would prefer to call them healthier people. When you use the word beautiful people, it's like there's this magical aura that a beautiful person emanates to people, as they live life. And that may be true, but I just prefer the word healthy. What's funny is, through the years, I bet I've got that comment after somebody watched one of my videos and I've been tearful, or shared some courageous story, that I've been called like beautiful probably hundreds and hundreds of times. And I certainly don't experience myself as a beautiful person. My wife probably on a day-to-day basis wouldn't be thunderstruck by my beauty, I'm pretty sure, because she knows all of my warts and all of my brokenness. A second observation, these beautiful people, these healthier people, they have known defeat. Defeat is a bruise. Defeat is more than suffering. Defeat is, there's a man standing over you gloating who just knocked you out. I was working with a client this week, and something about the session, I don't remember what, reminded me of when Muhammad Ali, many years ago when I was a little kid, knocked out Sonny Liston. So I want to show you that picture. So there's Muhammad Ali, and he's standing over his opponent. and he's gloating. He's saying, "I'm the man," and Sonny Liston is in, the downed state of a man who has been completely and utterly defeated. Do you know what I'm talking about, folks? Where life has done this to you. You're the one on the canvas, not the one with the ferocity in his face and the gloat in his demeanor. Defeat it's an exhaustion. Defeat, it breaks your spirit. I'm not sure everyone in life has experienced this kind of defeat. Everybody's lost a Little League baseball game. If you're a Cubs fan, you've suffered a lot of defeat through the years. Everybody plays the fool sometime and gets broken up from. But this kind of defeat is complex PTSD, whooping your ass to the canvas kind of defeat. This kind of defeat, not everybody experiences, but we have. If we've experienced narcissistic abuse syndrome, or are unlucky, unblessed enough to have been systematically abandoned or abused as a child and in adult life, to where we don't just have PTSD, we have a chronic condition called complex PTSD, then we have known how it feels to be defeated. We beautiful PTSD sufferers, we have known struggle. I got a message from a friend of mine telling me his father had died, and after the funeral, he and I took a long walk, and it happened to be right next door to where my mother was buried. So we took a walk and actually went and visited my mother's grave. And as me and my friend were talking, we just both said, who knew that life would be this hard? Who knew that life had this many struggles in store? When I was in my 20s, I had no clue that life could be this painful. When I was in my 30s, I had no clue. It wasn't until about age 45 until I started to unwrap some of these beautifying gifts of suffering from complex PTSD. Number 4, these beautiful healers, these beautiful recoverers have known struggle. Number 4 is they've known loss. Loss leaves an emptiness in your soul. Loss leaves an emptiness in your life. Loss is never the original plan. The original plan never includes the type of loss that we ultimately experience. Loss requires a whole bunch of crying, a whole bunch of grieving. One of the most healthy things you can do, people, I've been saying this for years, is to cry. Cry from the heart and soul of your being, and cry until you wash it into a more healed place. Going through loss, it causes you to take the mask off of everything's great, I'm happy, our life is going super, and I'm to be envied. To experience loss is to spend a lot of time sharing all your cool stuff on Facebook. I have a friend of mine, a minister friend, who actually shares his struggles on Facebook too, and that's refreshing. These people, these beautiful healing people, have found their way out of the depths. And of course, when I picture depths, I picture being, in some clear blue Caribbean water, but really, really down low. And you're in the depths of the water. And slowly through time, you rise to the surface and you're still alive, you're still kicking. My experience, however, folks, is that we don't just come to the surface and burst out into the sunshine with a deep gasp of air, and then we're on the surface and we're happy and we're victorious. If that's how it is for you, then God bless you, and I'm happy for you. But my experience that we're susceptible to occasionally sinking down again to not as far of a depth that we originally ascended to. But when you have complex PTSD, it's a chronic, lifelong condition. And I don't believe it's curable. I believe it's something you have to maintain, more like diabetes. If you don't eat right and exercise and take the right medicine, diabetes will kill you. And if you don't get enough sleep and meditate and go to therapy and get massages and do yoga and do EMDR and watch videos and read books and pray and do more meditation, then complex PTSD will cause you to sink back into the depths. You have to be vigilant. You have to live life as a process of recovery that isn't easy, and you can regress. You're either floating to the top or you're sinking to the bottom. There ain't no treading water with this particular condition. Kubler-Ross writes, these people, these beautiful people, have an appreciation, they have a sensitivity, they have an understanding of life. So again, those of us who've gone through narcissistic abuse syndrome, and those of us who suffered from complex PTSD, it gives you a real appreciation for all things good. If something is solid, if something is wholesome, if something is comforting, you appreciate it with all of your being. You maybe appreciate it probably more than the average person. When you have gone through this, you can sense and spot your fellow sufferers. We know folks of our own kind, people that have been traumatized, and when you see trauma, you don't want to fall all over yourself trying to rescue the person, but there's a kinship. There's a sense of a fellowship and a sense of family with people like us. What this going through this process will do, it will knock the overly innocent, naive bones out of your body, where you overtrust a universe that really can be a very unsafe place. And it can be a very unsafe place because there's scary Muhammad Ali's out there looking to knock you out. And sometimes you don't even see the sucker punch coming. in the quote, Kubler-Ross goes on and says that these beautiful people are filled with compassion and gentleness and a deep loving concern. The word I think that comes to mind is empathy. Who has empathy but empaths? And I had a recent comment in one of my videos, and they said that they noticed that in my videos I tend to have a very gentle voice. And I don't mean to have a gentle voice. I'm not trying to soothe you. It just comes from a soft and gentle place in me because of the experiences and the wounding that I've been through. So she mentions a deep loving concern. When my friend contacted me about the funeral, that this fellow is a bit of an isolator, and he's a beautiful man, and he's sweet, and he's one of my basketball buddies, and he has a lot of friends. But in recent years, in his sadness, he's begun to isolate. So even though I wasn't given a lot of notice about the funeral, I decided to go because I pictured him at the end of the funeral alone without any support. And sure enough, I showed up, and he was alienated from his brother, and all the other basketball fellows just sort of showed up and shook his hand and gave him a hug and told him they were sorry. But I wanted to just be around to walk with him and talk with him and be with him, for a good long time, because I didn't think he would have that. And so it was my pleasure to do that. So I want to read the quote again and just stress that, yeah, it's hard. Having complex PTSD, one writer called it the disease of our generation. That more and more so it's getting play in the media. More and more so it's being understood as big as a problem as what it is. But few of us have an understanding that there's sort of a collateral reverse damage where it can make you more humble, it can make you more sweet, it can make you more wise, it can make you more strong. It certainly can make you more empathic. So there's many other sides of the story. Wherever there is hardship, there too is blessing. The most beautiful people we know are those who have known defeat. They've known suffering, they've known struggle, they've known loss, and they have found their way out of these depths. These persons have an appreciation, they have a sensitivity, and they have an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep, loving concern. So, my brothers, my sisters, my friends out there who suffer from complex PTSD, I'm encouraging you to celebrate your uniqueness. I'm encouraging you to celebrate all these wonderful positive qualities that can come as a result of what you've been through. They don't automatically come. If you become bitter, if you become angry at the world, then you don't get any beauty for ashes. But that's what this quote is saying, is there's beauty for ashes. There's what does the scripture say? The oil of joy for the spirit of heaviness. So it's a trade-off. And honestly, if I could have not gone through it and lived a more blessed life, I think I would take that route. But we are who we are. It is what it is. Let's celebrate us as empaths. Let's celebrate us as sensitive people. Let's celebrate us as gentle people. Let's celebrate us as people who can empathize with those who've experienced struggle and loss and defeat. So every day we're working our recovery so we can swim to the surface, out of the depths, and keep on swimming so that we don't sink. And it's an adventure. I'll tell you that much. It's not boring. Thank you for watching today. If you haven't joined our channel, Family Tree Brand Life Coaches, please do that. Join us every other Tuesday night. We have a live stream program. We call it Church for the Narcissistically Abused. This coming Tuesday night, tomorrow night, I'll be leading. I'll be hosting. It was Jerry's night, but we have Jerry come to our home when he hosts, and we were going to be in South Carolina. But frankly, it was so rainy and muggy down there, we just decided to be up here next to our new office and our friends and our family. So also, if you're not aware of, I have some really good books on our website at familytreecounseling.com. A great book on abandonment issues. I have a really good book on shame as it pertains to communication between couples. And I have a little bit raw but powerful book on recovery from narcissistic abuse syndrome. Thank you for watching today, and God bless.